And when I got to campus, I found it a very white environment, and it was the first time I was away from home, actually. So I found myself very isolated. And I'm just walking around campus. One day I saw Spanish, La Casa Cultural Latina, and I got all excited, and I went in, and I was really happy to find it. Actually, La Casa became a home for me for the next 7 years.
We arrived at the University of Illinois scared. There wasn't a community, there wasn't a barrio, there wasn't a sense of belonging, there was not a sense of community except for one location on Chambers Street. We knew that La Casa Cultural Latina belonged to us, and that was our place, that was our barrio, that was where we could just be ourselves.
There was such a family spirit among the Latino students. Most were first-generation students in college, and the majority of them were coming from Chicago, which was about 3 hours away. So La Casa provided a home for the Latino students. And we were like a family. We had ups and downs, yet there was a lot of cohesion, and a lot of people would round around issues that were important to the community, and also come together when it was time to coordinate events and have those fun parties as well. It was quite a familial spirit among the students there, and which made for a very enriching, very rewarding experience, I think, for Latino students as well as for the staff at La Casa.
It's really interesting how we're building what I call a sense of Latino consciousness that is happening here in very few other places. It lacks that. I mean, at the University of Wisconsin, where students have become, traditionally, historically, they became very nationalistic in their, whether it's Chicanismo or this, and build that sense of nationalism that sometimes gets in the way of being able to be successful in developing programs, just because people don't want to extend, don't want to go beyond just their limited sense of identity. And so that's why I think it's important that La Casa and places like La Casa, be shared, and people understand what went on here. I think it's realizing that at that time when we had a smaller group of students, and now we have 2,500 here, that we could create a sense of family and sense of community. As you get bigger, you have just to work so much harder. And as you get bigger, and develop a lot of different identities, that we have now students coming with multiple identities. In my family, we're now a blend of Mexican and Puerto Rican.
The Latina, it was more, it's more accepted among the international students that they come from Latin American countries. There was more the political term as Hispanic, but at that time also in the late 80s, we have Mecha here. That was very active. And Mecha really educated us into the terms of Chicano. In the terms of Mexican Americans, and the terms which was very beneficial for all of us that didn't have those knowledge of that concept of the different terminologies.
It was very shocking to me to come to this environment where Chicanos ran everything. So I remember some of the conflicts were around the kinds of programming that were going on. Some people felt that it was too Mexican focused, and there was very little attention being focused on Puerto Rican issues. So there was a Puerto Rican student organization, and some arguments were about, this is divisive, why are you having these other organizations, why can't we just be Latinos? And another argument that I remember that was big at the time was sororities and fraternities. There was some of us, I've changed around this issue, and in fact right now I'm the advisor to a sorority here on this campus. But at the time, I was horrified that Latinas wanted to start a sorority. I just was horrified, and I fought it tooth and nail. I was trying to mobilize the students, explain to them why this model was a white middle class exclusive model and we don't need that. And they were really resistant, and actually some of the women started their own sororities, and before you knew it, there were 2 or 3 of them, and the guys were doing the fraternities, and some of them turned out to be pretty good organizations, progressive. Others of them were following the middle class white exclusive model, and so they, but at that time it was a black or white issue for some of us. It was the devil had come to the Latino community.
We had a lot of international students from different Latin American countries that were part of La Casa Cultura Latina, that they were part of organizing events. And then one of the most successful events that I will say was the Spanish Nights. And the Spanish Nights were the nights that was to practice the language, and then there was nothing to be ashamed if you were not able to speak the language in a very fluent way. But we have a lot of students that came and spoke what were the themes, coming and talking about, for example, what was the situation at that time in Mexico, what was going on, current news of Latin America, which it gave me a really rich spectrum of our different countries and our subcultures.
The graduate students, as I said, were the international people for the most part. So what they brought to the center, which was really important, this was the 80s, so the whole Central American wars were going on, and so they brought that analysis of, what was happening in Latin America, in Central America, and the contras, the organizing around that.